Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in as you get all comfy and cozy. Our guest tonight, Ted Rowe, will be here from UAPmed.org. So make sure you get ready for a great show on UFOs tonight. But first, we need to say hello to each and every one of you, including T-Bone in the gold medal position, Eternity Eternal with the silver, Kitty Caddywhack taking home the bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth and Mel WD-40. How you doing? Mel WD-40 is currently lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You do not want any sort of dryness. Thank you, Mel. Don't forget to give yourself a little shot there, too. Luscious Jules, how you doing? Mama Catherine, mwah. I love you, my dear. Mama Catherine will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Scrolling on down, up next we have, well, let's take a look. It's Frankie B. It's Kathy Evans. It's Bucky St. Monaco. How you guys doing tonight? Thank you for coming on in. Thunderhead, what's going on, my friend? As we continue on with our roll call. Up next, we have Undead Jed. Thank you for coming on in. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. Nice to see you as well. Number 43 in your program tonight, starting on defense. From Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Deb Rooney, you're here early. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Deb. As we continue on with our roll call here. Up next, we have Thomas Rock. How you doing? Kurt M., nice to see you. And we continue on with our roll call by saying hello to Fapster. Algaray over on Twitch, so excited to talk UFOs tonight that he literally bench pressed 2 1,000-pound UFOs 5 times. Good job, Algaray. It's amazing. Amazing. Your arms must be sore. Mickey G, how you doing tonight? Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Up next, we have T-Bone, my man. And who is next here? East Coast Turnaround over on X. Thank you for joining us. Necessary Dialogue. Good to see you. Escape from Blue Jersey at J Truth. How you doing? Good to have you here. Walter Kotchabinsky, thanks for coming on in. And Mickey, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Pam Harris, how are you tonight? Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Up next, we say hello to Shane Gord. How you doing? And up next, who is it? Let's see. It's Kitty. Thank you for that lovely super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support, Kitty. Thank you very, very much. And up next, we have T-Bone. Thank you for that great super chat. Really appreciate that, man. Thank you very, very much. All right, scrolling on down, we go next to, let's see. Who is here? It's Brent Von Owen, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. And who is next? Well, let's scroll on down. Grace 2, welcome on Twitch. Thank you for joining us. Very nice. Very nice comment. And up next, we have John Jackson. Thank you. And we're caught up. Let's get to the radio side. Hold on. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we're going to get into all things UFOs, from contact to the situation in ufology. Ted Rowe from UAP Med is here tonight. We're going to have a great conversation about UFO history and so much more. Stay tuned. We're just around the corner. We are on roll call on our YouTube side as we say hello to Maker of Stuff. Good to have you here. We are caught up right now, but I want to remind everybody that if you're on our YouTube side, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Matthew Gutka, how you doing? And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and get cozy, get comfy. And the main thing, you're going to look good. I promise you. You really are. We are 8 seconds away from launching this. So in that tradition, throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears to what's that we have in the news. We're together. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. Go to cariboucon.com. Get your tickets right now for September 18th through 20th, right here in the heart of British Columbia. We're going to get all into the UFO stories tonight, from the history to the experiencer. Ted Rowe from UAPmed.org is here. We're going to have a great time with him tonight. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us with another creepy story. We'll follow that up with the UFO report with Grant Baker. Ted Rowe is a prominent UAP researcher and the executive director of the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena, otherwise known as NARCAP, an organization he has led since 1999. Through NARCAP, Ted has played a pivotal role in documenting and analyzing UFO and UAP encounters that directly impact aviation safety. His work is grounded in evidence-based research with a strong emphasis on pilot testimony, radar data, and real-world flight experiences, bringing credibility and structure to a field that is often clouded by speculation. In addition to his leadership of NARCAP, Ted is also the founder of the UAP Medical Coalition, an initiative focused on understanding the physiological and neurological effects reported by pilots and military personnel following UAP encounters. His efforts have helped push for improved reporting protocols and greater awareness within the aviation community. We're going to get to him right now. Ted Rowe, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm doing just fine.
Ted, how did this whole UFO journey begin for you?
Well, UFOs were something that happened to me. They weren't something I was interested in. I was a kid and I was with family and we had exposures, several of them, and they stuck with me. And they continued into my adulthood. And finally I had a real eye popper in 1999. And that led to outreach to the PR office at Ames Research Center in Palo Alto. And Dr. Richard Haynes got right back to me after I made that report. And within 6 months, he and I had set up NARCAP to document pilot cases, aviation safety cases involving UAP. And so he and I co-founded it, and I was the executive director and still am, 26 years down the road on that. So that's kind of where it all began, and how I ended up in front of anybody on a camera.
Are you an experiencer as well? Is that why this is such a topic of love and passion for you?
Yes. If I hadn't seen it myself unambiguously, I wouldn't have dedicated as much time and effort as I have to finding out what the answers are.
Do you mind sharing your story with us?
Well, sure. I'm getting a Substack together so that I can at least just get the things written down. The interesting thing, part of it, along with the story themselves, is that, for most of the time that I ran NARCAP, I couldn't talk about any of this stuff. I was an experiencer, but by claiming I had experience, it directly affected the credibility of myself and my team. NARCAP at that time was a lot of Palo Alto personalities. We had NASA engineers and aviation safety people on staff, and everybody was very conscious of their image. And so, I couldn't talk about any of the things that I went through. But it started for me in 1965. I was a kid. I was 5 years old, riding with my grandparents and towards Lincoln, Montana, heading eastbound and down Rogers Pass. And a disc intercepted us on the road, and it was very clear and very close. It wasn't, like a light in the sky at the distance. It was right in front of us, and it matched the speed of the car. My grandfather was driving. He slowed the car down, and it went a little further than banked over the side of the embankment and went down. He thought it landed, but that was at age 5. I grew up in Great Falls, Montana, which is known for UFO activity. The first UFO video, the Nick Marianis video, was taken there. Of course, the Maelstrom missile shutdown happened there. My dad was an air traffic controller at both Great Falls and Maelstrom. So I was around aviation things all the time, trying to find the answers to these things. I had several more experiences growing up. The one in Oakland was really just over the top. And I don't really know why it happened, and I don't really have a good explanation for it all. But as far as what physically happened, it was I was riding with friends on top of the interchange on the Oakland side of the San Francisco Bay Bridge, and you could up on the raised freeway, and you could look out and see for a good distance to the southeast. And I saw a weird little light, a white light over a yellow light, very low to the ground. Pointed it out to Susan, who was driving, and my friend Ian was in the back seat. And I said, "That's weird," not really knowing why it was weird, but I just knew it was. And then as we were looking at it, it went from being two lights, a white one over a yellow one, a yellow one over a white one. And then it turned, and it became a rectangle with two white lights underneath it. And then as we headed down towards Oakland and around the curve past the Army base to 7th Street or so, it came down Highway 24 and basically intercepted us and ended up less than its own length from the windshield of my car. And then drove right down through the middle of Oakland with this thing in front of the car. It was transparent on the side we were looking at. You could see inside of it. There's nothing in it other than three not people staring back at us. And then it stayed with the car for a little bit longer. And in the meantime, we picked up about 3 hours in time in a drive that shouldn't have been more than 5 or 6 minutes long. And then it broke away at 8th Street, or so Oak Street, I'm sorry, in Oakland, and went back across Lake Merritt up into the Oakland Hills and disappeared. There's a bit more to all of it, but that was enough, eye to eye with these things, not human beings. And the missing time, which was weird because there's no off ramps on the freeway. As far as I know, we didn't stop the car. So that was very upsetting and disturbing to me. And for a long time, I was very upset by it. And it took a lot of work to deal with it, particularly at a time when you couldn't talk about it.
Right. What was that like for you? Going through a situation like that, considering you're in a very highly populated area there, and yet this UFO seemed to single you guys out.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for that, but that's what happened. That area, Oakland, actually has a reputation for UFOs, and a number of people that I know that live in Oakland saw their first UFOs in Oakland.
Incredible.
Yeah, the director, the Northern California MUFON director, Ruben Uriarte, had one over his school in Castro Valley, or not Castro Valley, in South Oakland. So there's a lot of stories along that line, and again, I don't know why that happened, but it had a very specific interest in us, which isn't the first time. So what happened was that I had to live with that for a while, and it was very disturbing. It messed up my life pretty much in every way that it could. And then I ended up talking to Dr. Haynes, whom I'd been kind of secretly studying for a number of years. And he interviewed us, and that gave me a little bit of direction. And then he invited me to help him stand up NARCAP, and that gave me a purpose around all of this, and that helped a lot in terms of coping. So,
how did it change you as a person, having that experience and the others that came along after?
Well, it basically broke me. It broke up my household, broke my relationship with my son. It did a lot of damage, and I had to change and grow in order to overcome what was happening to me. So I stayed focused on doing the work. I found a path that worked for me, that grounded me a bit, so that I wasn't just, trying to wing it. And then I started working with people that were dealing with the topic, both as witnesses and people that are psychiatrists and psychologists who are working with people that have unusual experiences. So I started learning a lot more about it, and that helped quite a bit.
Not to get too personal, you don't have to answer this or not, but has things, since you've made this a lifetime focus now, has things improved personally with your family and relationships?
Well, I wouldn't say that anything's improved. Family kind of has an idea of who you are, and it doesn't really matter how much changing you do, that they aren't watching you that close. But I think what happened when the government stepped up and said that UAP were real, and that they were a hazard to aviation, which is what we've been saying at NARCAP for 2 decades. I wrote papers on pilots and underreporting bias and all kinds of stuff around this. That helped. In 2021, when the ODNI report came out, If you're familiar with that, when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released her findings on the UAP matter, their initial assessment, they said that they were a hazard to aviation and probably a threat to national security. And then about a week later, I got a call from the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics asking me if I would present our findings from NARCAP at their summer convention, which was a thrill. I had a couple of handlers from there helping me, put it together in a way that would work for them and all these aviation engineers. AIAA is a professional society of 30,000 aeronautical engineers and astronautical engineers and aviation sciences people, and a lot of other capacities as well, defense contractors and so on. So there's a huge technical base there. And so I had to prepare a presentation for them. And then about a month later, they invited me back to join a small design team to put together a UAP research program, which I did. And all of those things kind of lent me the credibility that the family needed to basically ignore my unfortunate interest. But since then, everybody's kind of come around a bit, I'll say. But it was terribly destructive. It was very difficult walking around with that in my nervous system, and then dealing with it every day. I had Dr. Haynes was our science chief at NARCAP. I had Dr. Bali was on staff, Jacques Bali, Dr. Bernie Heisch, Don Ledger here from Canada. He was in our group, and we had about 60 members most of the time from all over, and pretty high caliber folks, most all of them. So it was a real challenge to do that work. That's why we came up with the UAP term. Dave, I don't know if you knew that or not, but that originated out of our corner at NARCAP. The acronym Unidentified Aerial Phenomena with a definition was put forth by Dr. Haynes, our science chief, in 1999 in our first paper. And so so we got behind that and started promoting it, and it eventually went viral. And now, of course, everybody uses UAP in some version or other. It's been changed a little bit. Definitions have been changed and so on. But that's what happened. That all started with Dr. Haynes back when he was working with JL and Hynek.
Looking back at your distinguished career within this subject, what would be the biggest high that you have had through this all?
Oh, well, there's been several highs. One of them was being invited to present to the French Space Agency UAP team, GPAN CNES. That was in 2022, that was a high point, sure. There have been some others. I think one of them was getting invited to stand up the AIAA program. One of the first things I ever looked at when I was a kid, I was about 13, 1973, at school and in the card catalog doing my first research on UFOs. And I'm looking at the card catalog and writing, it starts with A, right? So AIAA, Journal of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and their statement on UAP. And who would have thought that 50 years later I'd be standing up that program, helping put that together. So
That's pretty good stuff right there.
Yeah, it is, and just being part of it, and not all about me. It just was something I could be part of and make happen that was helpful. And that's been pretty much my career in this field. I'm very interested in doing things, writing papers, finding information, working on stuff. I'm not so interested on chasing clicks and looking for a lot of attention. Although the work we do deserves some of that.
You bring up a very interesting point there. What do you think about the change in UFO research, mainly since the government got involved with this, and like you just mentioned, that with the real expanse of social media the last couple of years with AI and everything else, we've really seen a push more towards channels that have a lot of subscribers, a lot of followers, a lot of, like you said, going for the clicks rather than getting the information proper. How do you like the way this field has morphed over the last few years?
Oh, I haven't found it at all helpful. But I take the phenomena seriously because it's in my nervous system. And I have some definite yeses and definite nos and definite maybes around all of this that get challenged by people who are offhanded. I see the same cases getting recycled from 10 years ago and 20 years ago, popping back up again, cases that were resolved. Now they're being sent out with more, higher production value and so on, and getting a lot more attention when they really aren't at the heart of the conversation. Discussions about ultra-dimensionals and all this other stuff, it's all sidetracked to actually finding out what this is about, looking at the actual clues from the actual UFO situation and coming to some actual understandings about it. And that's very different from being on a podium or being on the podcast circuit, this kind of thing, having to stay alive in that environment. So I don't find a lot of use for it. The whole disclosure thing to me was kind of a false track. The government's lied about this thing for 75 years, and they're not about to stop doing that now. And how can you take them seriously even if they did tell you the truth? How would you know?
You bring up a good point. Don't you find it a little bit interesting, Ted, that people don't believe the government at the best of times. And now when we get into UFOs, such a controversial subject, that all of a sudden we're supposed to take them verbatim on what they know about UFOs. Isn't that a little ironic?
Oh, it's quite ironic. And it's part of the reason I'm not really, that involved with that side of things. I did see a position for the AIAA program as far as standing off against Arrow and the Pentagon program, because we were watching them stand it up while we were standing our own program up. So, we're just like looking over the fence at each other. And I saw an opportunity to hold attention with the government and work with commercial aviation on aviation safety issues and hold that, because the Arrow is working with military primarily. But it's difficult, when you stand up these programs, you have people that come from everywhere. Nobody has a common knowledge base. So it's very much like herding cats. It's really a challenge, even when you do get a room full of really, truly qualified people who are truly interested and willing to dedicate time. It's difficult. So, but yeah, the whole disclosure thing, I don't have a lot of use for it. I think it scares people. It isn't really being talked about responsibly. If you really think that there's a non-human intelligence out there and it's coming into our domain and it's laying hands on our people, shouldn't you speak of it responsibly and carefully and with an eye towards the vulnerable people in your population? So I try to advocate in those directions that actually help people or might help people.
We got about a minute to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Ted Rowe is our guest tonight from NARCAP and UAPmed.org. So make sure you check that on out. I feel it's a ruse, this whole disclosure movement. I'm a firm believer. I don't like using the word disclosure. I do believe we are in some sort of confirmation of this, because no matter what, with the hidden technologies that are hidden under the UAP banner, whether they're flying out of Area 51 or White Sands or Wright-Patterson, it's very difficult for the public now to know what a UFO is and what a UFO is not. And I find that very, very interesting, especially if you believe people like researchers like Michael Schrad, whose sources claim that this topic literally sees us looking at technology potentially anywhere from 50 to 150 years ahead. of what we see right now. So, Ted, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Ted Rowe from NARCAP.org and UAPMed.org. His first time on Spaced Out Radio. A quick first half hour. You know the next one's going to be the same. All right, there we go. We're clear. Just so you know, a quick reminder here, our podcast audience and our YouTube audience can hear us. Our radio audience cannot. All right. Dirty Filth. Hello, Dirty. Tina Smith, how are you tonight? Trucker Andrew, thanks for coming on in. Who else did I miss here? Hellion Beast, how are you? It's been a while since we've seen you. Good to have you here. And go there. And I think we're caught up here. Thank you, Debaruni. That was a good start, Ted. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, I'm getting rolling on it.
I just like to let conversation happen. That's
Sure.
all.
Sure. And they're all good questions. It's all reasonable. It's been a challenge to talk about my own experiences in public like this. I've been.
Yeah. I'm a known communicator, so my background is journalism, so I had to learn how to talk.
Yeah. It's important. It's important.
It is. We got about 4 minutes here, my friend.
Okay.
4 minutes.
Do you know who Beatrice Villarroel is?
Yes.
Yeah, I interviewed her or or hosted a presentation by her a couple of weeks back.
Nice.
And that would be my response to Deb from SAC here and her fake AI image comment. Then in that, the work by Beatrice is, pre-satellite 1950s, no AI involved,
Beatrice is one of the good ones out there.
Oh, she really is. She really is. She's really a neat lady. I'm working on a project with her right now.
Oh, good.
And a bunch of others that we're trying to put together a coalition, a research coalition. So that's all in the wings along with this. We've been doing all these interviews to establish a science of non-human intelligence. And so we've been bringing in all of these PhD high-level experts on various aspects of the study and trying to find out what we need to do in order to get it to the next level.
That sounds fun.
Oh yeah. When you're around good minds, it's really enjoyable.
I can see that. How long are you in Hawaii for?
Probably another week or 10 days. I've been here for a few months. I had to come over before that last big storm got us, kind of get things nailed down.
Oh, very nice.
And then I got to go back up to Big Lake and work on my place up there.
I think every town has a big lake.
Oh yeah. That's just part of the course. Yeah, this is north of Wasilla, 30 miles or so.
And then you're heading to Alaska this summer?
Right. Yeah, I'll be leaving in a couple of weeks.
Let me know, because you'll drive right by my town.
Yeah, that's cool. It's this number, right? The BC number.
Pardon me?
It's the 250 number in my phone.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm probably going to do that next month.
That's going to be great. All right, quickly here, a big thank you to Mickey, Kitty, T-Bone, Mama Catherine, Walter, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support. And here we come with the second half hour right now. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we're glad that we are talking UFOs with Ted Rowe from NARCAP and UAPmed.org. Before we bring Ted back in, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Let's get Ted Rowe back into the show. Ted, it's so good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I want to get into the scientific side of everything because I'm going to be honest with you. I am more on the experiential side because I am an experiencer and I love people's stories, but there is a reality that I cannot forget about, and that is the scientific side of everything. So why is the scientific side so important to trying to figure out what these craft are, where they're coming from?
Well, it's the one rational tool we have, logic, through science. We see things, we can test things, we can hypothesize about things, and then watch carefully to see if there's patterns that'll validate them. It's in its infancy even now, but science can handle this. This isn't something that's beyond the capabilities of science. It's about observation and having the right tools and being in the right place.
And what have we learned?
Oh, what have we learned? Yeah, we learned a lot of stuff. And I don't know if your audience is familiar with Dr. Knuth.
Kevin Knuth.
Yeah. He's done a number of very interesting studies on the movement and physics of UAP objects, and that tells us quite a bit about what they are and what they aren't. And it kind of jives with things I've seen with my own eyes, where I've seen an explosive acceleration and a sudden stop. And I've seen where it had literally no effect on the beings inside. They didn't rock on their heels or anything. They just stood there. So it's not inertial. It moves the way you expect objects would move in space. So it doesn't use aerodynamics. There's no fluid dynamics, lift, thrust, gravity. It moved on different principles. So everybody's kind of on the same page with that. The next question is, how the hell do they generate the kind of energy that they need to be able to do that? And there's a lot of conversations around what that's about, how that's possible. There's been some other kind of breakthroughs in terms of studying them, looking in non-visual spectrum. The Tedesco brothers have been doing this, looking at them in infrared and ultraviolet. And they're seeing things that people aren't seeing in the human visual spectrum and documenting them. So One of the interesting things that Tedesco's got that I found very useful for our work at UAP Med was they stimulated a response out of a UAP that was hovering out over the water. It was about 1,000 feet away, and they had an IR emitter, which is like a laser, right? Only it emits an IR frequency, and they were painting this thing with it, just passing this beam over it and back. And documenting all of this with infrared cameras. And the first 4 times they did it, nothing happened. And the 5th time they did it, it looked like a little ball of light deployed out from underneath this thing. The next thing you know, it's at their feet, and they've got the camera down aimed at it. So they turn to move away from it and run, and it hits them in the mid-back and paralyzes them. They fall to the ground. The whole thing's on video. I got together with some neuroscientists, and we kind of went over it and just gave it a first pass to see what it might be about. And some interesting ideas kind of came out of that. So there are a lot of things going on out there. Those are just things I'm pulling off the top of my head, but there's a lot of good research going on.
Do we know yet what they are or where they are coming from, though? Because those are the 2 biggest questions that are asked by anybody in this field.
Well, yeah. No, we don't. We don't know what they are, and we don't know where they're coming from. This is something that we have to be very careful with anybody that says they do know, whether it's government or anybody else. We want to be really careful with that kind of information, because it leads to conclusions and assumptions and actions that might not be appropriate. So no, we don't know what these things are. I've been working on this project of developing a science of non-human intelligence to sort of transcend the idea of looking at their devices and start looking at what's behind the objects. What is happening? Why is it doing what it's doing? What does that tell us about it? And how do we study non-human intelligence? It's we've never been in a position to have to study things that are smarter than we are. You know, we can go out and go, okay, well, we know the dolphins are out here, so we're going to go out here and we'll study the dolphins. We'll get the microphones in the water. Yeah, there we go. Dolphins are talking. It's good. You know, you can't do that with UFOs, or in most cases, you can't do that with UFOs. So that's all part of the problem and trying to understand these things. And I think we get way far afield with speculation and confabulation even. I mean, we have congressmen talking about how these things are demons or angels, and I think all of that's premature. You know?
Well, unless they know things that they're not telling us.
Well, and my presumption there is that they do not. You know, I put decades into this field, and when I watch people that haven't, you know, and see how they kind of stumble around the information, and the kind of questions they ask, the kind of things they think are important, you know, doesn't quite. I mean, if you really thought, I said this in the last half hour, if you really thought that a non-human intelligence was coming here and doing the things that it's been accused of doing, shall we say, I think you'd be really, really careful about what you said in public about it. And I just don't see that kind of caution. I don't see that kind of care or respect for the information itself and the effects it can have on people.
Well, do you think this topic should be classified in what they are doing and what they are investigating on the governmental side or the military side of everything?
Well, some of this it's a great question. Okay. And on one hand, you know, we talk about our rights, you know, what are our rights? We have rights to know. But on the other hand, are there situations where us knowing would actually be detrimental to our, to the outcomes that we're looking for? Pardon me. For example, if the relationship is adversarial, and these guys are not here for anybody but themselves, and they really don't care who they harm in the process, If that's really the case and they're telepathic, how much do you want your society to know if you're trying to get countermeasures together? How do you protect your thoughts so that you can resist? Pardon me. And wouldn't that?
I'll let you take a drink. I'll let you take a drink of water here for a sec, while you're catching yourself. But one of the big things that I always struggle with, Ted, is, in regards to the threat narrative of these subjects, is the fact that they could have taken us long ago. If we could look back in history where there are reports of UFOs being here from Egyptian times, straightforward, maybe longer, but straightforward to these times where we are in now, it would have been a lot easier for them to take us out when our major weapon of choice was a bow and arrow and a spear rather than shooting rockets into the sky.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But I would suggest that there are other outcomes that are equally as unacceptable that don't involve a direct frontal assault, a military attack, and the idea of social engineering and this kind of thing to meet an agenda that serves them at some point. That we can't be sure about these things, and we have to be very careful in our assessments. I'm not saying that they're necessarily bad guys. I'm not saying that we're all doomed. What I am saying, though, is that the evidence that we have demonstrates that they don't respect boundaries of any kind, not physical, not psychological, not political, and they don't announce their presence. They come in the night. It's covert for the most part. And when you can't stop it, you can't say no if you have their attention. So these kinds of things, they have to be considered in the overall threat analysis, what they're doing and why they're doing it. So
to play devil's advocate, though, sir, could we not say that we do that to every other species on this planet as humans?
Oh, yeah.
Except we hide behind the word science rather than, thinking what they are doing. If the aliens conducting scientific experimentation on us. And look, I'm saying this as somebody who has been taken before. I don't like it. Was not fun for me a couple of times. A couple of times were all right, But on the flip side, would I want to go again? Hey, better me than somebody else, But I guess what I'm saying is are they not doing the same thing to us as we are doing to the wildlife in this beautiful planet we call Earth?
Well, you can equivocate if you want to, but do you want it done to you or yours? Do you want it done to your loved ones? Do you want it done to the kids down the block? Yeah, we've advanced a long way as a species, and we paid for every step of it in blood, and we're learning what we need to learn in terms of how we treat the beings around us. But that doesn't excuse being exploited by other beings. And I don't think that we should at all have our guard down in that regard when it comes to dealing with a non-human intelligence that seems to have an agenda that includes us. So it's not. I don't think that humans have a lot to apologize for. We every step we've made, we paid for in blood and lives, and it's an ongoing process. But that doesn't excuse, again, being exploited by a non-human intelligence either.
Okay. I think pleasantly we will agree to disagree on that. Not that I think what the aliens are doing are good or bad. I'm kind of indifferent on it, but I still think that, with the way we have treated fish or monkeys or dogs or cats has been pretty much the same way. But I understand your point. Moving on to the next question regarding that. Okay, when it comes to what is actually truly going on, do we think that this is coming from outer space, or do we think that it is a combination of maybe some sort of interdimensional type of time travel?
Well, there are a lot of different ideas floating around out there. I tend to stick to the very basic ones, which is they live over there, they come over here, they figured out how to do that, and now they're over here bothering us. And we have to figure out what they're doing and why and where they come from, and how to either get them to stand off or find a way to talk to them or something. I don't. They aren't defying laws of physics by coming from another planet. Okay, there's nothing that they're doing that we're seeing in the atmosphere that has to automatically imply that they're interdimensional craft or objects. The general relativity allows for unconventional transits, and if you take a look at like Dr. Michio Kaku's, he wrote a monogram on it called Interstellar Travel. And he basically took the Kardashev scale for examining the technology of a civilization for it to drive a radio signal. And if it was going to send a signal of a certain size, it would have to generate so much power in order to do that. How would it do that? Okay, and so Kaku applied this to interstellar travel and came up with the class 0, 1, 2, and 3 civilizations and how they would handle interstellar transits. And it would seem magical. It would seem like it would be very hard to detect. Once you get to a class 2, cusp class 3 civilization, even seeing them is challenging. So there's plenty of room for understanding how and why they do these things without having to embrace things that are too far off the map. Unless it proves out, unless that ends up not being a good explanation,
Okay. The technical side of everything. How much do you think we actually know about the technical aspect of this all? Like when we see these objects doing, 90-degree turns at a high rate of speed, or being able to drop from space down to water level at an incredible amount of short time, like less than seconds in some cases. How do we judge that? How do we compare that to what we have technologically?
Well, it doesn't compare. I think Dr. Knuth pointed out that it was, all of the power generated on the East Coast in a year expended to make one of those 90-degree turns at 50,000 miles an hour, with a 1-ton device. I think I got those numbers right, but yeah, it's harmonics above our own physics. It involves materials science and engineering that is based on a different way of looking at physics. That doesn't involve aerodynamic or fluid dynamic flight. There's no wings, there's no lift, there's none of that. And then the byproduct of this includes non-inertial effects. In other words, you don't, if you're riding in a bus standing up and the bus driver hits the brakes, you keep going, right? You stumble forward because your mass is still in motion, even though the bus is stopping. Okay, and with these devices, that doesn't happen. You wouldn't be thrown forward; it would stop, and you'd stop with it. Okay, so that tells us something about how it moves and how it relates to the environment that it's in. When we see the colors on them, and we see what appear to be plasma sheaths around them, like some of the balls of light have different colors on them, then that can tell us some things about them. If they're I witnessed one, and I used this example at the AIAA presentation I did 2021. I watched one come out of the water. It was up by the ocean, right? And it came out of the sea. And it was a ball of light that was pinkish orange. And as it started to move towards me, it was about a quarter mile away. And as it started to move towards me, there was very, very clearly a disc inside of it that filled this bubble, this pink bubble. And I could see water coming off the disc as this thing was moving towards me. And that pinkish bubble was very, very defined. And if I was a betting man, I would say that that was emission spectra from RF generation, radio frequency generation. And so I'm not sure what the purpose is of that bubble, but when it got over my head, about 75 feet over my head, all of a sudden the field around it collapsed and it just flared up into a blob of light, white and yellow, very busy plasma. I was very close to it. I didn't feel any heat off of it. It was not in thermodynamic equilibrium. It very definitely displaced. It blew my hair back. I have long hair. And then it proceeded up the ravine behind me in this blob as an undistinguishable mass. And so then you have this question of how does this thing hold the plasma next to it rather than flare out? So magnetic field probably. And this is where all the questions start. So then now you've got a little bit of an idea of how you might bring sensors to this problem based on just what I told you. So that's how we learn more. You know, we go to these places where these things happen. We collect more documentation.
Do you think then that at this point of the conversation, we should even be worrying about how these craft are getting here or who is piloting them?
I think that should be our primary concern. And this is the problem I found myself with at the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics. We worked for months and months to design a program, and then we started onboarding a team. We brought in 70 or 80 people from all kinds of backgrounds, defense contractors and others, astrophysicists, theoretical physicists, aeronautical sciences and engineers. And then the trick was trying to figure out what direction we were going to go in, what we were going to look at. You know, how do we organize and go after something? How do we decide what constitutes a research arc and what gets us in motion? It's a huge problem. And I forgot the thrust of your question there, Dave.
Just in regards to the non-human intelligence, aliens, who's piloting the craft.
Right. So getting back to this, okay. So I'm sitting here with all these guys, right? I finally got a room full of experts, and I'm realizing that they're not really ready for the rabbit holes. They're not really ready for the who is doing this and why they're doing it and what it means because that we're seeing them here. And that's kind of why I went after UAP Med and started working on that program, was because we do need to know what this is about and why people are suffering. So that's my take on that. That's the answer we need, more than we need to know how these things do what they do, which is interesting. We need to know why.
The why factor is a big question. I'm going to expand that a little bit as we got about a minute to go before the break. Why now? Why do you think this is all breaking in the last 8-9 years? Why now after 60 plus years of silence?
Well, I think it started with basically with Tom DeLonge and some of those conversations that happened back in 2017. And it was the spill off from Harry Reid and Bob Bigelow and those guys doing their work in the late 2010s. And then all of that started getting out with OSAP and ATIP, and then came Lou Elizondo. And so it became a political thing. And when that happened, that's when it all got interesting, because that's when the ODNI did their analysis, right. In 2021. So, but that's kind of the genesis of it all. It became a political issue.
Ted, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go with Ted Rowe from NARCAP and UAPmed.org. Make sure you check it on out. More UFO talk when we return. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Ted, we have about 5.5 minutes. I'm just going to play a video here and we'll be right back, okay? Here we go.
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. CaribouCon is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit cariboucon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. And let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right. Well, it's myself and Ted. We're hanging on out, and we got all of you here as well. Big thank you so far to Mickey G, Kitty Caddywhack, T-Bone, Mama Catherine, Walter, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats. Thank you, T-Bone, for gifting one out as well. We greatly appreciate it. And we're going to get to some questions here from you guys coming up. Zane Jackson, welcome to SOR Chat. Bobbert, nice to see you. Carrie Doyle, thanks for coming on in. And am I missing anybody? I don't think I am. Here we go. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From NARCAP and UAP Med, here is Ted Rowe. We're talking UFOs, aliens, contact. Ted, I want to get into a little bit of the history of this subject with you, because for many people right now, the start of ufology was the 2004 Nimitz incident, when ufology really took off. For others like myself, it's Roswell. Where did this all begin? What is the history moment that you look at that really defines this entire topic?
Well, I think when we fielded a global army during World War II and the reporting went vertical in 1942 or so, all of a sudden we went from, a few scattered reports over the generations to just a vertical reporting curve. And it stayed that way. When we had eyes on the sky and sensing capabilities, we saw things and we sensed things. So I think that's where the real turning point was. That's when we realized that it was a global issue, a global presence. Every player in World War II saw them and documented them. So I think that was kind of the moment. And then along came things like Roswell. If it happened, I haven't heard any really good argument why it didn't. And other events have come since then that are all, important. But I think it started with getting our military out there and looking around.
You love working with the military side of things. Why is the military report so important to moving this subject forward?
Well, I don't really work with the military that much. I have my stuff. I deal more with police reporting. The police chiefs association. I'm one of the reporting for points for 80 different jurisdictions. But my focus has been mainly on commercial aviation. Aero and the Pentagon are managing the military. The great thing about military detections is that they involve sensing platforms that are much more involved and capable than you're ever going to find on a 737, commercial airplane. So their ability to capture data and to see it in different spectra and this kind of thing is valuable. And when they have something to say about it that's well documented, it isn't just floating around out there as evening news fodder. I'm always interested in what those cases might involve.
So getting to more of the police and civilian side of everything, what's a case that stands out to you?
Oh, well, in 2020, I did a study on a case involving a freight hauler from Quarantero Airport in Mexico, which is just north of Mexico City, to Memphis. And somewhere over Tamaulipas, it picked up a spear off of its port side forward quarter. It was a 767 with two guys flying it. They got their cell phone out and took video of it, and that was all well and good. And then they also took video of their weather radar. So they turned their camera around and showed their weather radar, which was very helpful because at the time Venus was very prominent in the sky and very low, and it was in that area of the sky where this object was. But if you look at the weather radar, it shows that there is a huge bank of clouds between the aircraft and the horizon. So they wouldn't have seen Venus through that bank of clouds. And so that was an interesting case. It stayed with them for about 35 minutes. It came from above vertically and stopped and then paced their aircraft at about 400 knots, which is a fairly textbook example of the kind of cases that I've been dealing with over the years, actually.
When it comes to police officers, they are trained observers, much like commercial pilots are, military pilots, etc. What makes these reports so much more special than, say, if I was to give a report?
Well, they're professionals documenting it in the line of duty. They're on the job. So when they're taking the time to tell you that they saw something, it does it behooves us to pay attention. And they're the first line in reporting that goes all the way to DHS. So Department of Homeland Security is kind of the last stop for police jurisdiction and police reporting. So the idea is that if something is happening, that information should be moving up that line and being seen and documented somewhere. So that's kind of what makes police important. The other part of it is that they're witnesses too, and they don't always handle it well either. And so mental health professionals and some maybe even medical people should be read in on all of this so that first responders can have the support that they need, and so that the witnesses and victims that they might encounter also get the support that they need.
What does the DHS have to do with UFOs? Department of Homeland Security.
Well, sure. Well, it's Homeland Security. If we've got flying God knows what, coming right down into our jurisdictions and floating around our neighborhoods and grabbing our people and this kind of thing, DHS would want to know about that. And they do. One of the better videos that I've seen released was from the Customs and Border Patrol involving an A-10. It's on their website. It involves an A-10 that's being confronted by a UAP, and this thing just flies loops around it. It wasn't a large one, but there was no way that that A-10 was going to get a firing solution on this thing. And that makes people nervous. That makes those who are responsible for our defense concerned when our systems aren't equal to the threat.
The amount of reports that NARCAP has taken over the years, what kind of patterns have you noticed?
Well, the interesting thing about NARCAP is that they're all aviation cases. They almost all involved an air crew in the air flying their airplane. And rarely do you get an observation on the ground, like an air traffic controller might have a UAP inside of restricted airspace over an airport, for example. That happens every now and then. But for the most part, they're consistent. They're flying their airplane. They see an object. It does things or it doesn't do things. They do things or they don't do things. I had a case where the air crew turned on their landing lights. They had a UAP. It was out in front of them. They turned their landing lights on. So that thing turned its lights on, and they all ended up night blind. There's a lot of different things that can happen with these incidents, but the thing is they're consistent. It's in the air. It's happening in a certain way. These cases almost never involve like occupant cases. You don't get observations of occupants or any of that stuff. You just see the objects and their behavior around the aircraft. And the reason that I focused on that so much was because the kind of change we needed around UFOs wasn't going to happen in a big way. It had to happen in a rational way. You had to be able to show that these objects were a threat to aviation and that the aviation system needs to respond to them. And if that would happen, then that opens the door for what the heck are they? What don't we know? And how do we find out? And suddenly the UAP issue becomes a less filled with stigma. So that was kind of the goal with our work and with NARCAP and what we were trying to do.
Are there any reports that NARCAP has taken that have had collisions or near collisions with UFOs or UAP?
Well, we got cases where the possibility seems certainly high. Whenever you're looking at aviation accident or incident cases, you end up with a majority report and minority reports. So the majority might say, well, generally it looks like it was probably this, you hit a goose, right? The minority might say, well, hey, this is, there aren't any geese out here, and there are aspects of this thing that are wrong. So in our minority report, we're going to say it hit an object unknown. So yeah, we have cases like that. Had one fairly recently, I think 2 weeks ago. Had a case involving a commercial airliner that hit something at altitude. The higher up they are, the less likely it's a bird or a drone. But like for example, we had a case out of Mobile, Alabama. The guy was on a climb out. He was in a 208, Cessna 208. It's an 8-seater. They use it to haul freight around and stuff. A lot of private operators do that. And so he's on climb out. He gets up to around 3,000 feet, and all of a sudden he's yelling into his microphone, I had to divert, and that was the last we heard of him. Then they found the plane balled up in the swamp, propeller broken and some distance away from the aircraft, which implies that his plane struck something, obviously. Couldn't figure out what it was. Still haven't figured out what it was. The FAA initially said it was a UFO because they didn't have anything else to call whatever it was that he hit. He obviously hit something. There are transfer marks on the aircraft. Killed him. So we can't say that the guy hit a UFO in the classic sense, but he hit a UFO. And what does that mean? I don't know what that means, other than we aren't able to resolve it.
We are speaking with Ted Rowe from NARCAP and UFO Med tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I want to get a couple of questions in from our audience right now, Ted, for you. We're going to kick things off with Paramarv here. He says, I wondered about the creation of the term UAP. What did you believe the term UFO was lacking, and how does the term UAP help resolve that?
Oh, great question. Great question. We came up with the term because pilots and engineers and so on were absolutely not going to talk to us about UFOs. I could literally walk up to them and hand them my card and start in on UFOs, and they'd hand me my card back and walk away. But we chose this term UAP with the definition to allow for a social sanction. They couldn't talk about UFOs because that meant flying saucers and aliens, and that's just cuckoo. But unidentified aerial phenomena left enough room in the margins for them to sit back and stare at the ceiling and come up with some brilliant things to say. And that's the way we used it for a long time. And we used it in all of our papers. You can go back and look at our papers going back to 2000. And it opened doors for conversations that we couldn't have in any other way. It's not a good term. We should be talking about flying saucers and calling them flying saucers, and spheres, we should be calling them spheres, and cylinders, we should be calling them cylinders, and so on. But and when you call something unidentified, it's like trying to describe Nevada by saying it doesn't look like Hawaii. It really doesn't tell you anything. But it was about the social sanction. That's why we did it, so that we could talk about it. And so pilots.
What I've heard from my insiders, that the military, the government loves this term because it's much easier to hide their toys under the UAP banner rather than the UFOs.
Well, it could be. It could be. I mean, we're coming into an age of UAS anyway. Unmanned aerial systems are going to become just prolific. They're going to be everywhere, and they're going to be doing everything. And it's going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to differentiate necessarily between a drone and something anomalous. So the government's got cover in a lot of different ways if it wants it, as far as its weird stuff. The main thing to understand about it is that they don't take their weird stuff and fly it down into cities. They don't want people to know about what they have in general. They want to use it for what they can get for it.
I was talking to one source one time who worked at Area 51 for a long time. And he had a friend of his who was a test pilot there. The test pilot always used to say, well, let's go create some UFO reports tonight, right before he would fly. I always thought that was kind of funny. Let's go to Jules here, because you know Julie. As she said, do you think they will ever get around to discussing the anomalous health incidents experiencers incur from contact with the phenomena in Congress, or is that a bridge too far?
Well, shout out to Jules, Jules of the Wood there. I think it's a bridge too far. When they start talking about people being hurt by these things and talking about it with a straight face, they lose control of the narrative because everybody will be in reaction to it and they won't be able to steer the discussion. Pardon me. That's my take on it anyway.
You think that subject needs to come up, but there's way more important topics to get to first. Let's get some answers to the first questions first.
Yeah. I think that if we do it in a controlled way, so that we have healthcare professionals in place that are read in, that are informed, and that understand, that can be of help to people that may struggle with the information or with actual exposures. I think that's doing a better service to humanity than just dumping it in our laps and letting everybody run around willy-nilly trying to make something of it.
Let's go to another question here. And this one would come from Kaiju, who is asking, instead of the government telling the truth, should it be the public revealing the truth of UFOs to the world? Why can't the public gather the kind of evidence that the government may have?
Well, that's perfectly good, rational point. I've been involved with nothing but civilian programs and doing civilian science on these things, and there's no reason at all why we can't come up with that all this information on the other side of the wall from the Pentagon. No real excuse at all. It's a matter of organization.
Ted, I do this show 5 nights a week, and I often wonder in regards to these subjects, especially when it involves the government aspect of this, what are we missing? What is the public missing that maybe they're trying to tell us, but we're just too naive or just don't understand the signals?
Well, they're trying to tell us that there's a there, and that they don't have a lot of information for us that they can release because it's complicated and it involves global balance and other governments and all of this stuff. But they are telling us that the things are there, that they are real. I wouldn't take anything that's coming out of any of our congressmen's mouths about it as gospel. It's probably not the way they're describing it. And I wouldn't wait too much on, or put too much weight on the government releasing information of any value. There's probably hundreds of thousands of documents in the government right now on UFO sightings and incidents that they've dealt with, but most of it's fairly useless. Even if it's telling us about a sighting that they had or that kind of thing, that what we need is the analysis. What we need is the context. It's one thing to tell a UFO story, but it's quite something else to document it. And an example of that would be like Tehran, Iran in 1976. That case was investigated by Admiral Secord. Richard Secord went there and did an analysis of that case, which has never been released. Most people don't even know that it's who did it. But that's the information that we need, these analyses, the engagements that actually get into the weeds on what these things are doing and how they were detected and what they've learned in their work around them. And I really don't think any of that's forthcoming.
Why do you think none of it is forthcoming?
Well, it's valuable. It's of use to, it becomes actionable to people who have the money to make it actionable. And the rest of us, it doesn't mean anything in terms of what we can do with it. So in that sense of having a value, they'll sequester what's valuable and they will tell us whatever they think will keep us happy. But I don't think that there's going to be any kind of an unburdening of the government of all of its UFO stuff. I doubt very much that that's happening. We've sat through a number of incidents where the government was going to tell us all about UFOs, and what we got was far short of that and didn't come with any kind of public engagement at all. So I just have my doubts around the government on all of this. And I think with your with Kaiju Ninja here, that's his question. That's a great point, and that's how we run counter to that. We go find the info ourselves, and it can be done. It's not impossible at all.
That really is part of the tough aspect of this all, is trying to, not only learn the truth, but find the truth and everybody's truth together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like throwing a deck of cards on the ground and only finding 50 to 52.
Well, and it is, how do you pull the information together and make it into something coherent? This is a multidisciplinary engagement. This requires smart people from a variety of backgrounds to engage on this, to help us actually understand what it is we're dealing with. And And that really hasn't happened yet. I'm part of a coalition building effort right now, and that might turn around with this try. It's a better run at it than I've seen in the past. But that's what it's going to take: people working together, people networking, people agreeing on standards of research and publication, meeting scientific standards of research and publication that are equal to any other study, any other discipline.
Going to get you to hold on right there when we return. More audience questions. And we'll learn about UAP Med when we return on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Flying on by, Ted. Flying on by.
Yeah, it does that, doesn't it?
It does. Makes my job as host easier.
Well, that's great. That's great. I know I've been hosting these talks the last couple of months, and 2.5 hours, and it's like nothing. Just,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you're 4 hours behind there. It's only about 6:30 there right now.
It's 7:30 right now.
Okay, 3 hours.
3 hours from Pacific time. Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. Have you driven up to Alaska before?
No, I haven't. I'm looking forward to it. I've got to.
I would love. I'd love to go with you, man. I've never been. I've only been up to about the halfway point of BC.
Uh-huh.
And I'm about in between. I'm about 40% of the way there.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But I would love to do that Alaska road trip, man. I absolutely would. That would be so.
Well, the road's a lot better these days, than it used to be.
Yeah.
The guy can actually drive the darn thing.
It's more the time that you need because, a trip like that, you want to take your time because there's so many cool little towns and things to see. I mean, you don't want to race up there, and you need at least 2-3 weeks just so, because you're going to spend almost half of that traveling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt. No doubt. And it's going to be cheaper for me to drive up than it is to ship it, at least so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to seeing the Yukon and all of that.
When you come through, I'd love to show you around.
Okay. Well, we'll get something on the books then. I've got your emails too, so
yeah,
that'd be good. It'd be nice to check in with somebody on the way.
Yeah, my wife is originally from the Yukon.
Oh yeah. That's up the road, but y'all stayed in the same part of the world.
Yeah, I would love to go up there. I want to see 24-hour sun.
Oh yeah. That's an eyeful.
Yeah,
get that up Fairbanks.
Yeah,
for a few days, a week or so.
We got about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, one of my favorite cases happened up there, the Japan Airlines case.
Oh yeah.
I love that case.
Yeah, Dr. Haynes did a lot of work on that. He interviewed Kenji Terauchi, and when JAL took his job away, Dr. Haynes got him reinstated.
Yeah.
Wrote a letter to JAL and got him back in the mix again. Yeah, it's a neat case. I met with John Callahan. He was the FAA director of accidents investigations. And as soon as that case happened, he went straight to Anchorage and collected the audio and radar plots.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., and he came in with all of it, plunked it down on the bed. Some of these plots had like mice had been chewing on them, you know. It was something else. But yeah, a lot of information about that case. Yeah.
We have about 38 seconds. Big thank you tonight to our super chatters, Deborah Rooney, Walter, T-Bone, Kitty Caddywhack, Mama Catherine, and Mickey G. We greatly appreciate your love and support. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. I don't want to see you all up here at CaribouCon, September 18th through 20th. CaribouCon.com. You can get your VIP tickets right now. CaribouCon.com. So make sure you check it on out. Here we go in 4 seconds. All right, we are into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Ted Rowe from NARCAP and UAPmed.org is our guest tonight. Ted, we're going to get right to you here. What is UAP Medical Coalition?
It's a collection of healthcare providers and interested parties that are working on how to educate mental health and medical providers about UAP incidents and how to incorporate that information into first responder protocols and procedures and policies. We do a lot of other things around the edge of it, but that's primarily what our focus is developing all of that infrastructure that goes with a society that realizes that it has a UFO problem. And how do you train your police? How do you train the reporting lines? How do you move the information around? How do you train your hospitals? Do you need to have IC-10 codes or DSM-5 codes to treat these people, or is there a better way? All of that stuff that isn't being thought about, that's what UAP Med is focused on.
How's the response been from the professionals out there?
Oh, it's been very good. Very good. A lot of interest from police and first responders. I keep our work very careful, above the board, with a focus on pragmatic engagement rather than entertainment, or you won't find aliens dancing across the bottom of my websites, this kind of thing, because it's serious. And I find that the professionals respond well to that. And then of course references and documentation. There's a lot of papers being written right now by clinicians and others with the expertise necessary to write about what people who are having unusual experiences need and how to take care of them. And so we're kind of working on that foundation and trying to help.
How many clients do you have?
Oh, no, we don't treat witnesses. We don't even work with witnesses. All of our work, it's all with professionals. We're educating professionals and putting together information packets, helping design training courses, this kind of thing.
Can you take us through one of those, little bit of that training course, so people have a little bit of an understanding?
Well, sure. So courses are variable. It kind of depends on the who you're teaching. But we're working with, like, for example, initially you want to educate people on just what the UFO matter is, and provide just the most basic, solid info you can that is well referenced. I start in the 40s and work up from there. And then you go to the point where the conversation goes from people seeing lights in the sky to dealing with occupants and having interactive engagement with these phenomena. and then how do you treat them? How are they? And if they're not well, then what do you do? We've had cases, for example, of witnesses who tie themselves to their furniture or to their spouses because they don't want to be taken. And there's a lot of psychological damage around all of that. And their families aren't necessarily very nice to them about it. So how do we treat these people? We recognize it as a trauma, and then we follow the patterns of trauma treatment and treat the symptoms accordingly. That's the advisement that we would offer in terms of the training. So that's just one example. There's a lot of different things, and depending on the circumstances. For example, we helped set up UAP clubs at Harvard and at Tulane for the students, and that ended up being a whole different process of education and informing them to and their faculty sponsors to engage. So it's variable by the audience and by the kind of stigma you're up against.
When you are training officers and police forces and others regarding this highly important topic, what are some of the questions they have for you regarding UFOs?
Okay, so we're not at the point where we're actually doing trainings right now. We're developing policy for first responders anyway. We are doing training and other kind of things, but for first responders.
I understand, but what kind of questions are they asking you guys for advice on, or on how to even implement something like this?
Well, the issue, the education has to come from the top down, really. Fusion centers, watch commanders, down to the guy in the ground, the officer himself, or the ambulance driver, or whoever's involved with it. And what they want to know basically is how do they everything they do works with a process flow, right? So, okay, we'll look at the guy. All right, is he bleeding? All right, we've got to get an ambulance, and we're gonna, okay, he's not bleeding, but maybe not get an ambulance. We're gonna do another thing, right? The process flow describes what kind of response that they're going to do, and what they want are those process flows. They want to know what to do. How do you deal with a UAP that might have been visible a moment ago and now is not visible? How do you know if it's not? How do you know that it's left? How can you tell? Well, you have to outfit these guys. They need equipment. Other questions are about proximity, how close you could be to these things. Should never be close to them, in my opinion. Just basic tactical questions along those lines. At least for the guys on the ground, when you start talking about a watch commander or people up the line, then they need to know things like how do they educate their people and what kind of information can they use to make sure that their folks are centered well. So, and this is an ongoing thing. Even the work we do at UAP Med to map these things out and to understand these process flows and to help the system understand what they're up against is really what we're doing. Because in the end, they're going to bring their expertise and they're going to develop their own process flows and do what they know how to do. But they don't know the scope of the problem. They don't know how to prepare for it. And so that's what we do, is map all that out so they can see it.
All right, let's get to another question here from our audience. Let's go back to Kaiju here. Ted, what do you think we are really dealing with these UFOs? Are they beings from another planet, dimension, or could it be a future us? Maybe all three?
Well, there's, last time I hosted a talk by Gary Nolan, Dr. Nolan here a month or two ago. He pointed out something really important, and that is that science is based on probabilities. It's rare that you have a binary situation where it's either yes or no. otherwise you have a preponderance of evidence, and you say, because of the evidence, it looks like this. This is the majority report. We're kind of going with this right now. And that's the best we can do with this subject. And as far as what I know, what I think we're dealing with, based on my experience and what I've seen with my eyes, we're dealing with a non-human intelligence that has humanoid characteristics. He's not quite as tall as we are. His technology is harmonics above our own. His ability to do what he does is daunting, to say the least. He has an agenda. He's here for a reason. He isn't doing what he does and expending the kind of energy that he does for fun. And as far as whether they're from, I think they're from another planet myself. I don't think that, or they're spacefaring. But I'm guessing another planet, or a bunch of planets. As far as dimensions or a future of us goes, I really don't know enough about those things to make those kinds of guesses. I've seen a lot of Star Trek, but the reality of dealing with UFOs is a little different. It doesn't really show us these things. Your mic's off.
Sorry about that.
All right.
I was coughing while you were coughing, so I figured I'd keep my microphone off. Trying to be professional here, Ted.
I hear you. I've got the same problem, damn it.
Let's go to Jules. Is it being considered that the others are inhabitants of our planet, or just a different frequency or spectrum, but definitely not from elsewhere in the universe? Or has there been proof that you know of that they are off-world?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know how long they've been here or how long they've been coming here. I think they've been really, really busy. And if you look at, for example, I look at aviation statistics, and say from 2009 until January of last year, there were no fatal accidents in commercial aviation in the United States for that entire time. And that's millions of flights over a decade of flying. So if we have crashed UFOs, how active are they? How many millions of journeys have they made before one broke or crashed? And how busy are they in that sense? And I would say they're terribly busy. And it makes you wonder where the hell they come from, because to be seeing them daily the way we are, and you can bet today somewhere somebody had an eye-popping observation of something they didn't plan on. It happens all the time. So the presumption is that they're busy. The next thing is, they could be here. They might live in facilities that are programmable matter, that are just not visible, not visible to the human. Not perceptible by humans. There's a lot of ideas around all of this, but the bottom line I look at is just that they use machines and devices. They come here from somewhere. They're highly capable at what they do. They're very efficient, and there's not a lot that can be done about it in terms of telling them to knock it off. So that's about as far as I can go. We like with work by Beatrice, for example, Beatrice Villarroel. She's documented off-world observations of what she's calling solar reflective transients, which by their nature have to be big and flat and highly polished. So, and this is from the 1950s, so this is pre-satellite detections. And her analysis has been independently verified now. That came out a couple of weeks ago. So she's on the right track as far as detecting things off-world. So could be off-world, could be both. Could live here and off-world. Could be a thriving, moving civilization underwater or somewhere behind the moon. Hard to say.
Do we think that they are in our solar system, in your opinion? Or do you think that they are actually coming from further out?
Well, a lot of this is about signals detection, and whether they're detectable in their communications and in their operations. And if they are, then we have a huge asteroid belt out there. We have planetary bodies that we didn't even know were in our solar system that we're only discovering here in the last year or two. There's a lot of possibilities for them to be nearby, or to have larger facilities nearby. Yeah, that's possible for sure. I don't think that they necessarily live in our solar system or that they originated in it, but they could certainly be based anywhere on it.
Let's move on to another question here. Let's go to in the studio. That airplane you were talking about earlier about the paint transfer, was it a light black or a dark gray color?
The transfer was actually red, and it was phthalates that were compared to gloss coat on boats. And there was some speculation that there was a seaplane or a drone that was flying in the shadow of the. There was a FedEx wide body at 3,000 feet, and they thought maybe something was hiding in the radar shadow, a drug smuggler, or that they might have hit a military drone. But they never did resolve the red transfer marks on the outside of on the fuselage of the downed aircraft.
What is the best piece of evidence you've seen?
Oh, other than what I've seen with my own eyes?
Yes.
Yeah, out in the world, you mean? We have a number of cases that I think are very convincing. And the Tehran-Iran case is one of them. There are some others. One that really caught my eye not long ago was mast cam footage from the one of the Mars rovers, and it shows a pill-shaped object not far from the rover, and it shows in a couple different panoramas. It's on the NASA website, and it's a very unusual looking thing. That one has me really wondering, because it's about perfect. You've got a robot camera on another planet taking a picture, an automatic picture, and it captures something very unusual.
I haven't seen that photo yet. Where can we find
it? It's a pill-shaped thing. Reddit had it. There's a Reddit channel on that for a while. Mars mast cam photos. It's a very interesting one, and it's really because of the provenance. That, like I said, it's a automatic camera on another planet, and it's on the official NASA website. I went digging around in the mast cam footage for that thing, or the photographs, and found it. It took some work. They aren't set up by numerically the way you'd think they would be on the NASA files, but it's in there, definitely. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was able to find it online. I mean, it does look like it is hovering over with a shadow.
It does. And when you look at it in the larger photograph, the larger context, there's a panoramic that is shot at it. It's even more convincing. But yeah, there you go. And for me, that if I was just going to point at one piece of evidence, I think that one should be resolved one way or the other as to whether that's something or nothing. That looks like something to me.
Oh, knowing NASA, they will just hide behind their traditional illusions, as they normally do.
Well, I'm surprised it's on their website myself, but there it is. So,
what is your thoughts on NASA? Do you think they're doing a good job with this? Because I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm being a little too shrewd about this, or rude, or whatever you want to call me, terse, because I never use the word terse on this show. I think they're an embarrassment to the UFO world. I really do. I think they treat us like we're stupid. I realize that they are a military organization. People don't realize that, but they are. But the way they have treated this subject in the public eye with sheer stupidity. I feel like I'm being, you know, I'm being treated like I'm a 4-year-old child again, or a 5-year-old kid going into kindergarten being told not to do something silly like pick my nose in class. That's the way I feel about NASA. What is your opinion? I mean, you're a pretty brilliant guy. You're dealing with a lot of smart people in this field, Ted. And here NASA is playing absolutely dumb on this subject.
So I mentioned earlier, you asked me about high points, and I told you that presenting to the French Space Agency, GPAN was one of them. And one of the reasons it was a high point was that I got to talk about NARCAP and our work. And then the following speakers was Dan Evans from NASA. So he came out and gave it 15 minutes of talking about what NASA was going to do with respect to UAP at the time. And they were putting together their little working group. They're trying to study the phenomenon and figure out how to make it, palatable.
That usually $100,000 panel.
Yeah. And that's, I think, where all of these groups have kind of missed the boat. I had the same problem with AIAA when we stood it up. You get a lot of brilliant people together, but they don't know anything about the subject. And they have opinions. And so those opinions drive the way the engagement goes, and it doesn't really effectively deal with the phenomenon, the problem at hand. And I saw this with AIAA. I saw it with Aero, and they stood it up, and I saw it with NASA. And that's just the nobody would consult with those of us that have spent decades putting this information together. They're when they were looking at the historical background of UFO stuff. I have pilot cases that go back to 1916. And there's a lot of consistency in those reports all the way up to the present day. Metallic spheres, for example, that even DOD got video of. So I think that what happened here was that there was a concerted effort to create a stigma around the subject. And that stigma was heavily embedded in government programs, especially like NASA. And then if you were going to go anywhere, if you were going to be part of NASA and you were going to, have a shingle in NASA, then you weren't going to be talking about UFOs. There was much more important things to focus on than that. And that stigma, I think, has stifled a lot of conversation. And I think it was prevalent in NASA, but it was prevalent all across the government. The censor board at Harvard that went after John Mack referred to his interest in abductions as his unfortunate interest. So it's a stigma, and it's artificially created.
I just look at the way NASA doesn't even acknowledge their own information that is public. Like my favorite case of the X-15 pilot, I believe it was Gordon White, who was flying at 315,000 feet above the sky. And he looks out his window and there's a UFO, keeping pace with him. And then it's like the UFO kind of gives him the old wave and says, we're out of here, and takes off deep into space. And yet that's public. They've never acknowledged it. All of the transcripts that are public of the Apollo astronauts, Mercury, Gemini, all of them acknowledging they're seeing these things. And you can read the transcripts online, and NASA never acknowledged it. And I just think the ignorance of them is very rude to what we're trying to do.
Well, I would suggest also that, as you mentioned, NASA does have a military aspect to it. It is part of our national treasure per se, and what it has to say affects the world about things. And I would imagine that they would be a little bit circumspect about talking about UFOs, even if they did have a lot to say about it. There's a lot about this that's really challenging. I've worked with on for example, the FAA won't allow pilots to make UFO reports. It's in it's in the FAA manual and the AIM, the Aeronautics Instruction Manual, that if you're a pilot and you want to make a report, you got to go somewhere else.
Ted, we got to wrap it up. A great conversation. NARCAP.org, UAP.org. Ted Rowe, everybody. Hour 3 is next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
That went by way too quick.
It always does. It always does.
My friend, thank you very much. Let's do this again and stay in touch, because if you're driving through, let's meet for some lunch.
That sounds great. That really sounds good. And I got your number, and I've also got the email through Klaus. So thank you very much for this. The questions were good. I was happy to engage.
All right, buddy. You take care.
All right. Take care.
Take care. We'll be right back, everybody.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!
Don't get caught without your Spaced Out Radio merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, socks, hats, stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can look the part? We don't have ugly merch, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Dirty filth. Dirty filth. Dirty filth.
Object is heading north 045 degrees. It's definitely not a plane. It seems to be tethered to something. Is that a banner, Joe? Caribou Con. Does anyone know what Caribou Con is?
Caribou Con, one of the BC Caribou region's best-kept secrets. Until now. Join our panel of renowned paranormal experts for a weekend of fun and intriguing presentations. Go to cariboucon.com to book or inquire now.
Over here. Look at this.
Discover Spaced Out Radio on all your favorite platforms. We're live every single night with the best in UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and the unexplained. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms. Head over to Instagram for behind the scenes and daily weirdness, TikTok for quick mind-bending clips, Facebook for community discussions, and X for real-time updates and hot takes. Wherever you scroll, Spaced Out Radio is there. So go search Spaced Out Radio on every platform, hit follow, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode. The weird is waiting. See you there.
The McNeil House is one of several buildings at the 108-mile heritage site said to be haunted by spirits of a time long forgotten. But would you stay the night? Along with guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations, Haunted 108 is offering a chance to spend the entire night inside the historic McNeil House by booking one of our B&B style sleepovers, where you can experience the hauntings firsthand, meet the resident ghost cat, and witness unusual activity. If you dare to turn history into a night you'll never forget, book your spot now at haunted108.com. Spots are limited. Will you be brave enough?
We bring in Grant Baker. There he is.
Going on, broski?
You know, there's nothing more eerie than when you go outside during the break and all of a sudden you see a black tail run past your vehicle in your carport.
Yeah, I'm good. No, that's you up there, not me down here.
Yeah. I'm a little on edge right now. A little on edge. We're coming back in 10 seconds. Thank you to our super chatters tonight. We greatly appreciate you. And we're going to get going right now. Welcome to hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. When I was in middle school, my family moved into my mom's childhood home to take care of my grandfather. This property was in the woods near Lake Michigan. Everyone refers to it as the Valley. I grew up hearing all my aunts, uncles, and cousins' scary stories about growing up in the Valley. Once my family moved in, we quickly learned why the Valley truly is the most evil place we have ever been. My mom worked the third shift while my dad ran his business out of our garage. One night, I needed to talk to my dad, but he wasn't in the house. Knowing he was probably working in the garage, I checked. Across the yard, I saw all the lights on in the garage and what sounded like the radio blaring. Convinced my dad was in the garage, I walked over there and I decided to leave the safety of the house. I focused on the welcoming light of the garage and began sprinting across the 100 or so feet of pitch darkness. As I entered the garage, I felt relief as I called out to my dad. This relief proved short-lived as I instantly froze and realized something was wrong. Standing in deafening silence, I didn't see my dad anywhere. I heard something that sounded like a radio just moments ago, but now all I could hear was my own panicked breathing. I would not have made the terrifying trip over if I had not listened to that convincing sound. Before my heart had the chance to start beating again, I took off toward the house. What previously took me 30 seconds, I now covered in 10. I was so terrified, I decided it was best to solely focus on the door and getting back inside. As I burst through the door, I found my dad in the living room, looking as if he had been there for hours. Like so many horrifying experiences at that house, I just tried to not overthink it and moved on. It was not until a few years later after I moved out that I would be reminded of this experience. As I've previously mentioned, my family often tells scary stories of the valley, and this is what we found ourselves doing one night. As it became my brother's turn to tell a story, it didn't take long for it to sound very familiar. My brother described the same instance of needing to talk to our father. He saw the lights on, heard the radio blaring in the garage, and was convinced he'd find our dad working there. He ran through the darkness only to discover exactly what I did. Nothing. No sounds of the radio, and no dad. It was the next bit that had my blood turning to ice, though. While I tried not to scare myself further and focus solely on the door, my brother did not. As he turned back running towards the house, he made the mistake of scanning his surroundings. He saw the distinct outline of some form on top of the roof, and to his absolute terror, it was not human. What appeared to be the silhouette of some sort of man stood stock still right above the door, and this was the path that he had to use to get into the house. This creature was so dark it contrasted against the surrounding woods. I have no idea how he summoned the courage, but my brother ran like a bat out of hell back to the house and through the door. Once hearing his version of events, I couldn't help but wonder, if I had just looked up when approaching the door, would I have discovered that I was not alone either?
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night. From the swamp to the stars, let's go over to Grant. Here's the UFO report.
Sky. Grant's got the stories breaking through. What's hidden now comes into view. From distant lights to secret files, mystery stretched for miles and miles. Latest news, truth revealed. Every signal slowly peeled. So tune in close, don't miss the facts. UFO facts, we've got your backs. Space Down Radio becomes a song.
Grant Baker, it is always good to have you here. I'm a little freaked out right now.
What's up, my man?
I'm a little freaked out.
Oh, you talking about what you saw on the back porch?
Yeah, so for our radio audience, okay, I during the breaks I'll go outside and I will check out the weather for I always like to look at this time of the night to see if there is northern lights out or whatever. And so I have to walk through, I get to the door, and as I'm about to open the door and I'm shaking, that I have a loud doorknob here at SOR HQ, and it opens up to a carport. And all of a sudden my sensor light goes on and I see this black tail run by my vehicle. Deer around here have white tails. So I know it wasn't a long tail, which means that's good. It's not a mountain lion. Bear? Maybe. But I can tell you, when I say I live in the wilderness, my friend, you never know what's going to be right around the corner. And I just got the shivers over that because it was kind of creepy. It was kind of creepy when all of a sudden you shake the doorknob and the sensor light goes off. And the next thing you know, you see a black tail running past your vehicle. A short black tail. Maybe a bear. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I got a video off a Ring camera. And so I live in the county, but I'm literally a block away from the city. And I had gone out back when I smoked, and this is, a couple years ago or a few years ago now. Went out at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock, something like that, maybe 11 o'clock. Smoked a cigarette, went back inside. And then 30 minutes later, I went and had another one for some reason. In
Can I
between,
stop you right there?
yeah.
You were on the phone with me when that happened.
Oh, when not the bobcat, but the mountain lion went past my.
Yes, yes, you were.
So for anybody that's listening, when I was out there for the second cigarette, and thank goodness I've quit since then, but you're correct. I was on the phone because I heard something bite the dust. I live on the lake, and so a little bit off the shore, I heard something get it, and I said, "Okay, I'm going back inside." It wasn't until the next day that I had found out exactly what was going on, and so in between that 30 minutes is a 5 foot from nose and not to its rump, not including the tail. The tail was down. Was 5 feet long. This is a 150-pound mountain lion that walked across my deck, and I have a picture of it for anybody that wants to see it. Just go to my Facebook. I'll post one up tonight. But yeah, serious. When you see something like that, it gives you the heebie-jeebies.
I agree. That's why I'm thankful. Whatever I saw out there didn't have a long tail. You don't want the long tail, my friend.
Do you have wolves up there? You should, right?
Yeah, not in my area. The wolves are in the forest.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you got for us on the UFO report tonight?
Holy mackerel. Do we have something to talk about this evening? Where would you like to start? Because, when it comes to the PBS article that and this is just a quick reference with the Trump White House disclosure, and there's a push going on here. And for anybody that's wondering, President Trump has issued a directive for federal agencies to release records of UFOs, UAPs, whatever they want to call them today, and alien life is where we're getting this. Just dumb it down to what it really is. He's framing himself as the transparency, and this is a quote, president, linking this to his recent release to JFK MLK files, which, you listen to Burchett on those, and there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But we have a timeline, and there's a directive that was issued in February, which everybody knows about. But there's updates provided at a NASA event, which just happened, and a TPUSA event in Phoenix. And Trump says, and these are quotes, they're very interesting, and the first release will be very, very soon. And, that's one thing that I liked about certain public speakers, that they have a little bit better etiquette when it comes to speaking. And he has a little bit of skepticism in it. I don't know if you picked up on that. I mean, he admitted at the Phoenix event, and this is a quote again, I wrote it down. Says, "I don't know if I'm into it," suggesting this is for public interest only, and rather than personal conviction. And is this genuine? Is it a genuine move for transparency, Dave, or is it just a shiny object, like Kirkpatrick, which we'll talk about here in a moment, to distract other, geopolitical issues like the conflict that we have across the seas?
I think it's easy to say for us in the public that this UFO story is a distraction for Iran or for the Epstein files or anything else that may be picking the hides of somebody. The one thing that we have to remember about the president and any government, or even my government up here in Canada, yes, the focus goes to the person on top and what they do or don't do, but their job is to run multi efforts around different subjects every day.
Right.
Okay, they are spinning hundreds of plates. You and me, when we go to work during our daytime job, or when we are at home, we are spinning plates. Okay, if you come home, you may have to mow your lawn, do a little bit of gardening, make dinner, do the dishes, get the kids ready for bed, make sure homework is done, so on and so forth. We can sit there and do that. We're spinning multiple plates, but there are hundreds of plates that a president or a prime minister has to spin at once. And to say that he is using this as a distraction for other outlets like the Epstein files or Iran or whatever it may be, I think is lazy on our part to put blame on that. This is a subject his family, for some reason, is very interested in. All of his children are interested in it. They are the ones who have been pushing him on this subject. We've heard Laura Trump talk about this. We've heard Donald Trump Jr. talk about this. Eric Trump has talked about this. Okay. They want to know what's going on. They know Dad knows. And why wouldn't they ask Dad about it if Dad is the president? But the problem is, as far as we know, Dad is not answering those questions. So what's happening?
According to Dad, they're very interesting, and the public wants to know about it. I mean, he admits that, and the fact that he's not even, I mean, his son has a podcast, and has talked to multiple people about this. It's been in the news for a couple of years. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, if he's not telling his own family, I'm sorry. Like there's something going on here, and especially when we get down to the more interesting news that we're going to be talking about tonight. There's things going on in this world. Take JD Vance, and he has a demonic angle. And you actually sent this to me, and I'm just going to summarize it because Vance he's taken a more personal and obsessed, I guess would be the word, approach to the topic, adding to a spiritual layer of the phenomenon. And his theory is, he stated that he believes that these sightings are not only extraterrestrial biological entities, or not extraterrestrial biological entities, but rather more spiritual demons. And so we're getting like a twofold from different avenues when it comes to this. He even vowed, and I have this written down too, to get to the bottom, quote unquote, of the UFO files, and specifically mentioned investigating Area 51 during his term. And it's like, okay, cool. So really though, how does the interdimensional demonic theory change the political conversation? I mean, is it moving it away from national security or even to a worldview religious discussion? I mean, where are we at here? You're getting salt and pepper on this from different sides, and it's muddying the waters, I guess I would put it. And when it comes to these kind of discussions, somebody like me or anybody that's listening to this, where we want to get down to the primary, what the heck is it? Just tell us if you got some type of military front that needs to have certain secrecies. Cool, we understand that, we're accustomed to it, but give us like kind of the beans of what's going on here.
I like that. The beans of what is going on. And look, we're going to hear things about this moving forward. Okay. I mean, if you go back to his first term where there was a lot of words that, the United States great pilots, and they're very, very good looking pilots. Okay. I think that he knows. How much the president knows, we don't know. Probably not as much as he should, being the most powerful man in the world. But will he get what he wants? Okay. Don't forget, there's been a lot of other things that he has said that he's going to release. Look at the JFK files. Look how much of those were redacted. There were pages. I mean, if you bought stock in Sharpie right before the JFK files came out, your stock would be worth millions right now with the amount of ink and pens they used. Let's just be blunt about that.
Well,
right?
so yes, you're correct on that stance. And the reason why I say that is because when Burchett's an interesting character. He releases little video shorts and puts them on social media. I like the guy. He's very personable. And he just got out. In fact, he just released a post that had to do with the JFK files. And he even admitted within that, short that he put out, that there's a lot of things and we've all been lied to. And not only did, he even mentioned, different types of guns, where they came from, and he got it out of a catalog, when it, and he just, but there was many different rounds that had hit him from different sources, and we've all been lied to. And he's an interesting cat. I really like how he goes about it. He doesn't give all the details, but he gives enough to let you know, hey guys, if you were conspiracy theorists before, well, you've been vindicated. You were right. And that's the way all this goes. When it comes to UFOs, or now UAP, whatever the heck they want to call them, aliens, I mean, you can put whatever spin on it you want when it comes from whatever government across the globe. We all know that there's different agendas. They got things that they don't want the public to know. So primary focus is public knows about it. It's getting overwhelming thanks to the internet, thanks to Gen X for creating it. And guess what? Now everybody can talk to each other in a split second. News hits everybody at the same time. We don't have to wait for the paper to come out, or for it to hit the paper and 2 days later to come out. And then, the evidence is so is so huge right now, where they can't hide it anymore. And it's gotten to the point where not even the presidency of the United States and other countries to that, they cannot hide this anymore. They can hide whatever black budget program that they're doing on it. But what we've seen, what Bob Lazar's talked about, what Commander David Favor's talked about, David Grush, you pick your name, just pick it. The people that have come forward and the evidence that's at hand, from Phoenix Lights, Roswell, you just name the incident, the forest out in Rendlesham, it's getting overwhelming, and you're not going to be able to hide it for long. Whether you believe in angels and demons, or whether you believe it's little green men from Mars, or whatever have you, what I saw come through my window when I was 5. I got asked today, actually, on a forum, when did you, or who told you something that made you believe in aliens? And I said, it wasn't who told me. It was the fact that an alien gray came through my window. That's when I started believing. I didn't know what it was at the time, but that's when I started believing. And when I got older and figured out what the heck it was, and then I started doing studies on it, and there is so much information. There's so many people that are experiencers out there. You cannot hide this forever. It's going to come out, whether it's a government that does it, or whether they're going to land in somebody's yard and they're going to just say, hey, you know what? The government, yeah, we can make them look like fools, or we're going to go to, Dave Scott's house in a wolf outfit and run when he goes out there to take a look at the sky.
I would agree. I would agree, but with a minute 25 to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour, Grant Baker is here for the UFO report. I think it is a subject that is going to be a little contentious over the next little bit. It all depends on what they release. They want to probably take a book out of the JFK files. So the president wants to look good. We're releasing those files. There's some interesting things in there. People are going to be excited about what they're going to read. And then we're going to get it. We're going to be like, what the hell is this?
Looks like a zebra.
Looks like a zebra. The zebra notes. That's what we'll call them. The zebra notes right there, because I don't expect much. I don't think any of us could really expect much, Grant, as we move forward. And if we do get something, let's be excited about it. Even if it's one piece, one little drip of evidence. We're not going to get crash retrievals. We're not going to get aliens. We'll get a few videos that'll be blurry, grainy, you name it. But it's something. Let's be happy with what we get because it'll hide our disappointment just that much more. Grant Baker is here till the top of the hour with the UFO report. We love it when he's here. We love it when you were listening on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Give it the beans, man. Give it the beans.
The beans. The beans.
Musical fruit, folks. Musical fruit. I don't know. Some of the stuff that's happening right now just. On a more personal note, Grant Baker got an interview today and aced the crap out of it.
On a more personal note, I went to Flight 21 yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was fun.
You still have clean shorts after you went there?
Yeah, it was actually kind of calm.
Oh, good.
I set up the trail cams.
So are you posting footage of the trail cams on the other show?
We will be.
Oh, good.
We will be. Actually, that's actually a good question. So I believe on Thursday, we are going to we're going to set up a YouTube channel strictly for Secrets of the Forest.
Killer.
And so then we're going to move it from this channel, the videos we have on our channel here, we're going to move them over to the next one. And sorry for yawning, guys. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start building that channel strictly for that project, which will be good.
Hold on. I got you. See. I'm not as good looking as you, though.
Oh, stop. You are so hot.
Bro, I've gained 25 pounds laying on this couch.
Yeah. So by the end of this month, I'll have two brand new YouTube channels. So we're gonna do the channel for Haunted 108, or pardon me, not Haunted. Yeah, we're gonna do a YouTube channel for Haunted 108 and for Secrets of the Forest. Now, one of the caveats that we're actually going to do on Secrets of the Forest, and Mike, the videographer, had this idea, is we're actually going to incorporate people's experiences.
So, Secrets of the Forest, like Bigfoot, cryptid style hauntings, experiences.
Anything.
Gotcha. Well, I got one for you.
I know you do.
It's only one, though. Unfortunately, it's only one. Yeah, and I say that. I mean, I'm looking back from, 35 years ago, give or take, 36 years ago, and I don't know how I'd react if I went through that exact same incident now,
right?
As an adult.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we went deep into the area where it sounded like we got bluff charged the week before.
Really?
Yeah, we went in there and it was kind of cool. Like, we're going to have to put a trail cam up there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was very peaceful. You did feel like you were being watched. There was something watching, but we went to all our usual suspect areas, which is always awesome.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Let's talk about Bigfoot. So based off what I've seen, and I know I've heard your stories too, is it physical and interdimensional?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both.
I gotta agree with that because of what I've seen as well. It's a very interesting experience. Y'all should try it. I don't know if anybody is listening.
Oh, yeah. Big thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney ×2, Walter, Mickey, Kitty, T-Bone, and Mama Catherine. Thank you for the love. And we're coming back in 20 seconds, 20 seconds, which is now more like 15 seconds, which
Love
is
you
now
guys.
more like 10 seconds, which is now more like 5 seconds. Let's get right to Grant Tavius Maximus, the UFO report with Grant Baker. My name is Dave Scott. I am the host of this UFO class ship based out of central British Columbia, Canada. We are glad to have you here. And Grant, what else do you have for us tonight?
All right, we're going to move on to the topic of the Pentagon and Arrow and their resistance to the subject that we all love talking about, and that's the reason why we're on the show. So the Pentagon and the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as Arrow, they're downplaying expectations, claiming there's no smoking gun or alien bodies. Now, when it comes to this, we've all seen in hearings when you have the representatives, the House representatives, the Senate and stuff, and you have people like David Grush talking about non-human biologics. Come on, guys. Like, they're there. Now, when it comes to the Pentagon, which is part of our, Department of Defense and government, and you send these, whether it be wreckage or biologics somewhere else, then you can claim that you don't have any smoking gun when it comes to this. And you can just look aside, oh, well, those have been sent away. We don't have any proof of these. Let's just, talk about something else. Smoke and mirrors. Same thing has happened time and time again. So we have Sean Kirkpatrick. I don't know if you guys know who that guy is, but he's the former Arrow director. And he promised that documents, or he claims the promised documents don't exist, and that the videos that we all see, like the Tic Tac and things that a commander from the Nimitz, who you got to understand, guys, if you're a commander of a flight battalion and you're on the Nimitz, you didn't get there by lying. You didn't get there by being an idiot. Like, the guy is literally top notch. He doesn't talk. There's nobody above him when he was out there. Sees this objects. And he even has this is where the Tic Tac, Go Fast, and Gimbal video come from. Like, he was there. So you have someone like Sean Kirkpatrick saying, viral videos like the Tic Tac are often just thermal blooms from jet engines. Come on, man. Like, you're doing an injustice. You're basically calling a commander of the military who's retired a liar at that point. And there's also counter evidence, though. So we have Representative Anna Paulina Luna, and she's pushing back, citing that there's whistleblowers, just like I'm saying right now, that have talked about this, including Commander David Fravor and David Rush and stuff that we've seen. I'm not even talking about prominent people like, Knapp and everything else that's been on there. Like, we've had scientists. Pick your video. Excuse me. But she's saying that there's whistleblowers and demanding videos with specific names like the spherical UAP and clouds, which we all discussed quite a while back. And then the 2023 incident where there's a senior Navy officer reporting a tic-tac shaped object, off the coast of California in 2023 and linked it with others. And this contradicts the nothing to see here narrative when you have so many higher up people within the Department of Defense in the United States that actually trump what Kirkpatrick is saying. Like, these are people that have made their life. This is their career. And they're very high up. They didn't get there for just no reason. They're steadfast people that are literally contradicting what he's saying right now. And there's such a massive disconnect between what whistleblowers are telling Congress and what Arrow is reporting to the public. And Dave, it's getting to the point now where it's getting ugly. I mean, it really is getting ugly. We just want just give us the basics. We'll listen to these people, retired generals, and people that have been in these black ops programs, give or take, whoever it is. But there's it's a 180 when it becomes, this is what we found. These are the whistleblowers. These are people with a high standing power, where they come out. They're really vetted people, and then you have Arrow coming to the public saying, "Oh, there's nothing to see here." Yeah, I mean, it really is a gross reflection of where this is going.
For sure. But don't forget, the Arrow's job, and none of us should be surprised by this. Their job is not for the public. It is to protect the interests of the security state of the United States. That's it. They're not interested in disclosure. They are not interested in any of these movements. In fact, they think they're a pain in the butt. They don't want anything. I mean, take Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick getting photographed with the guys from Skinwalker Ranch and then going and saying that he's never met Brandon Fugel or any of the Skinwalker team before. And there's a photo right there. And Fugel called him out on it on X. Right? So we have all of these charades and games being played, Grant. We don't have to like it. I don't like it. I really don't. But we also have to be critical in understanding that there are a number of these areas, which is why we have to separate UFO from UAP. I realize our previous guest would not probably agree with that, but I will go there because I don't think it's about aliens. I think it's more about protecting our technology that they don't want the public to know about.
Well, segueing into that, we have another news product, I guess you can call it. And back in the day when they first created Space Force, I thought that was really interesting. Why would we need a Space Force? What's out there that we need a Space Force for? And they're like, oh, in case other militaries from other continents are going to, use space as a militaristic platform, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. That makes no sense to me, but okay, cool. Yeah. So recently, and this is a newly released document, shows that UAP's Space Tiger team built around space and transmedium cases. So, and that's the headline if anybody ever wants to read it. And there's a newly released Department of War document obtained through a Freedom of Information Act or request, FOIA. And it was filed, it's number 24R020 if anybody wants to know it. And it outlines the 23 formation of UAP Space Tiger team. Now, this is a fun one. So
you look like a space tiger, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just trying to model you, but not as good looking. So the new, thanks. So here's the lead. Newly declassified documents via John, how do you say his name? Greenwald?
Greenwald, yes, from the Black Vault.
Correct. And satellite tracking and atmosphere, ocean. I mean, we're going all through the world here. So the Tiger team, quote unquote, here's their logic. So in military terms, a tiger team is a group of elite specialists brought in to solve a specific high priority problem. And this proves the government isn't just curious, they're actively hunting these things across domains. Now, when I say domains, people, this isn't like domains on Earth, like, countries. No, it is space, air, water. And these things are they're interdimensional or trans-medium objects. So it's very curious. I love this. So it proves that it isn't, and obviously it's not just a curious thing when they're actively hunting these things. It's the documents show the government is struggling to, how would I put this, get sensors or take the sensor data from different branches, like Space Force versus Navy versus, choose your pick when it comes to different military subjects or military branches. So here's the hook, though. It confirms that there is transmedium objects, the nature of the phenomenon. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. They're not just flying around. These things are entering and exiting our atmosphere. They're going through the water seamlessly. They're in space. These things are ridiculous. And it's so fun to read about it because we've been talking about this for years, since 2017, when the Tic Tac and all that stuff came out, and when New York Times talked about it. And now they're just coming up saying, oh, here's some freshly released documents like Spaceborne and Transmedium UAP. That's one of the headlines they used. Well, of course, but are there some, when they did that quote and I read it and I was like, wait a second, are they talking about spaceborne objects that are now transmedium objects, or is there two different ones? Like, is there some that are just meant for space, or some that are transmedium that can go through all three, water, air, even the surface of the ground? I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, in getting back to the Space Tiger Force, my big thought on it all is the fact that I never knew these type of teams existed. And apparently these tiger teams pop up all over the place. They're basically, cleanup crews. When things get a little bit hasty, they clean up the mess. It kind of reminds me of in Pulp Fiction, when Harvey Keitel's character, he's the cleanup guy. You give him a ring and he goes and cleans up the messes. You know what I'm saying? That's what it kind of reminds me of. Maybe a little bit more cloak and dagger, but it makes me wonder what they are looking for. What are they defending? How many satellites are up there that are pointing outward instead of inward towards Earth with their cameras? That's the type of thing they're looking for. That's what they're doing. And when the other satellites even have something fly by them, those reports, would they go to the Space Tiger team?
That's exactly it. I mean, it completely, exactly what you just said contradicts Kirkpatrick. And why build a tiger team for thermal balloons? Why do this? Clearly, they are tracking something that moves between domains, and the existence of the tiger team proves the existence of what we've been hunting this whole time.
Well, the tiger team is something that we are going to have to get more information on, and great job to John Greenwald from the blackvault.com, who got this FOIA request done to actually confirm that there is this tiger team going on. So that to me is very interesting. What else you got for us, Grant? We got about 8.5 minutes.
Oh my goodness. So Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, retired, has shifted the conversation towards USOs. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's unidentified submergible objects or submerged objects, depending on where you read it from, just like UFOs, unidentified flying objects. He recently suggested that if events for a lost civilization of Atlantis might be sitting on the ocean floor, they could be linked to current UAP activities. Now, hear me out on this one before I go too deep in what he said. We have been talking about this, and there's been many shows, You can watch it on Discovery Channel or Ancient History or wherever about Atlantis. We've talked about it hundreds of times, whether Lemurians existed at the same time as the Atlanteans, blah, 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 blah. Where's Atlantis? Obviously, it sank. Most people think between the Bahamas and Africa, and there's a huge landmass between those and the Atlantic Ocean that sank. There's plenty of proof out there. There's plenty of scientists out there that search this up. This has been going on for years. So the lost civilizations of Atlantis might be sitting on the ocean floor. That's one of those deals where it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. But his proof is Gallaudet's sighting. I don't even know how to enunciate this word, bathymetric seafloor mapping, whatever it is. And there's anomalies that don't look natural. Well, duh, it's because we see all kinds of stuff, structures, walls, pyramids, even underwater. And he believes that we are ignoring a water space despite spending $900 billion on defense. Here's the deal. We know more about the moon than we do about our oceans. That is a quote that we have been saying since I was a kid, and I'm 46 years old, and I shouldn't have said that, but when I was in grade school, I used to say that we know more about our moon than we do about our oceans. I'm sure that we know quite a bit more about our oceans nowadays. And so when it comes to what Gallaudet's talking about and where Atlantis is, I'm sure we figured it out. I mean, we have, they call the fast movers, you know, we have blips on our radar coming from submersibles, our submarines, other countries' submarines, about these fast movers that are doing, 200 knots under the water and without making really any impact on the environment. Yeah, the proof's out there. And I mean, I can go like way deep down the rabbit hole when it comes to Atlantis, and I don't know how far you want me to go.
It's very easy to fall down the rabbit hole. But you know what? I mean, we see Tim Gallaudet, we see Eric Burleson, we see JD Vance, we see other people of influence in this field going public with what the majority of the public would look at, Grant, and say, this is getting really, really weird and strange. Whether it's about aliens or hybridization programs or whatever it may be, we see that happening almost on a weekly basis now. So now that Atlantis is involved, should we be shocked at all?
No. So here's the deal. When I was a kid, I grew up, I was born in 79, grew up in the 80s. The sun was still yellow and now it's white. I got all these weird things that are going on if you want to go down the rabbit hole with whatever conspiracy you want to go down. The deal is I never thought, even in my 20s, that things would get to the point where all the conspiracies that I used to read about, the ones that I used to believe in, were now in international news. We're now in the Senate and the House of Representatives talking about it. Never in my mind. These are things that are no longer in your Encyclopedia Britannica, folks. I just talked about last week about doing Area 51, which used to be in the 90s encyclopedia. It's no longer there. Like, everything changes. It's such a weird time for us to be. I'm excited. I think it's fun. Like, can you imagine people have been talking about Atlantis? There's stinking cartoons that I love talking about Atlantis. And you know what? It's just fun. It really is fun. And if we can find the proof, that'll be even better.
3.5 minutes. Got anything else for us?
Oh, goodness. So really quick, I have to talk about this because I live so close to it. Everybody's heard about McMinimans UFO Festival, May 14th to the 17th. Here's the buzz. So, and I'm sure you've heard Knapp and what's his face?
George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell.
Jeremy Corbell, thank you. They've talked about it. They've gone there last year. It's fun. It's really close to where I live. I love McMinimans. They got a great spot, by the way. The festival's in McMinnville. It's less than 2 weeks away. It's expected to be massive this year due to White House seasons that we've been all watching. I can't make it because I got can't walk. But so you're gonna look for speakers. Let's talk about, Kelly Chase discussing experiencers, which I think it needs to be discussed. And you have Jason Martell touching on ancient astronaut theory, which is great because I love that, and ancient, megalithic structures and stuff, because we can see the carvings of these ancient astronauts. It's perfect for topics to bridge the gap between political and the high strangeness of the phenomenon. So if anybody's interested in that, look up the McMinimans here in Oregon, UFO Festival, May 14th to the 17th. I think you get quite a kick out of that. If you're close enough, go join it. I might just go up there and hobble around. And if someone wants to pat me on the back and knock me over, please do so. I'll laugh about it.
Well, you know what? We also have a great conference here coming up September 18th through 20th. The Caribou Con. The Caribou Con. Go to cariboucon.com to get your tickets. Why? Because it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun.
Absolutely.
And you get to see where we do things around SOR headquarters and in the area where we are. Ghost tours at our local museum. A lucky 10 people I'm going to take out to a Sasquatch spot. A lucky 10. How cool will that be? And Lee Strauss will be connecting with all of you to take you on sky watches. I can't wait.
Lee's
really
awesome.
cannot wait.
Lee is the man, and you guys are going to be impressed with his technological know-how. When it comes to camera equipment, that guy is above par.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That it's going to be a lot of fun. And what also is a lot of fun is this UFO news that is coming around right now, because every day it is something new. I never thought I would see the day, Grant, where every day in the press there is some new UFO story.
Yeah. That's why I said earlier, it went from being an experiencer, no one believed me for gobs of years, decades even. And then all of a sudden now it's in national tabloids and the news and the Senate and the hearings, and it's gotten pretty wild. And when my wife's eyes used to gloss over when I talk about this, now when I talk about it, she's like, well, who said that? And I'd be like, oh, Gallaudet, or hey, here's, depending on who it is, when it's in the Senate, oh, here's Burchett, he just said this. Really? Like, yeah. And now she's interested in it. And then of course my kids are getting interested in it. And it's a fun time to be alive. Let's just put it that way. And for anybody that's experienced it out there, get a hold of Dave. Let's have a conversation.
Why not? Let's talk some UFOs. Let's have some fun. And let's, stare up in the sky. You never know what we are going to see. And that's all where the adventure begins. The next thing you know, you're being taken. Next thing you know, you're in the hybridization program. And the next thing you know, they leave you alone and you're like, hey, I want more. Grant Baker, thank you so much. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bubblefoot Thaw. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bubblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, Grant Baker.
All right, sorry about that. I screwed up a little bit. I forgot about my this day in history. So can I do it real quick?
Sure.
Heck yeah, dude. So May the 4th be with you, folks. And Star Wars. Anyways, so May the 4th, 1961 White Sands event. Anybody remembers this? It's actually pretty notable. And this was an often overlooked radar visual case that happened, and it's in 1961, White House Missile Range in New Mexico. There was a radar operator who tracked an unidentified object moving at over 7,000 miles an hour in 1961. Yeah, it does. Something's going on there. And here's the details, though. So military personnel on the ground reported seeing a metallic lens-shaped craft that made a sharp, obviously impossible turn before accelerating out of radar range. That sounds familiar. And so this happened at the heart of our missile testing ground. So here's the heart of the matter. It's like a tie-in to what we were talking about with the Space Tiger team. Unfortunately, I missed it. My notes were screwed up. Anyways, it was way at the bottom. So this proves, though, that the military has been tracking transmedium or at least high velocity objects for over 60 years. And then there was also a modern anniversary, which is, how did I write this? I screwed up on writing this. So that's where the Trump White House disclosure timeline today that ties into it, because I watched the PBS report. And because from 61 to today, the media started heavily re-upping news about the February directive and the upcoming files, Kirkpatrick, and there was going to be an angle in there that I was going to have you talk about, which is the history is actually being made today, as well as back from 1947. I think I screwed that. Yeah, 1947 and 61 on May 4th, 2026. So you have May 4th, 47, May 4th, 61, May 4th, 26. It's basically the day of the gatekeepers, though, like Kirkpatrick. You know, it's always been about the gatekeepers. It's the war with the White House over disclosure. But whatever. I want to just let everybody know about that.
Well, I appreciate that. Tomorrow night on the show, Christian McLeod is here with whatever we call his segment. I always forget. That's okay. It's good. And thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney ×2, Walter, Mama Catherine, T-Bone, Kitty Kennywack, and Mickey G. I got to get ready to go on with Walter M. Sterling on WABC on the Red Apple Audio Network. Grant, I will make a phone call to you right after I'm done.
Okay.
And to the rest of you, have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk tomorrow night. Don't forget to leave a comment after the show. Let us know what you think, and have a good one, everybody. Where's my extra? There it is.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.